Just as I predicted, Israel and America have attacked Iran. This is a flagrant violation of international law. Let me tell you exactly what will happen next. Things can go one of two ways from here. Iran can either become a US puppet state headed by Reza Pahlavi or another American stooge, or it can become a bulwark against Israeli expansionism. Either Iran will give up its nuclear program and Israel will get a free pass to crush the region under its heel, or Iran will scare the Arab states into submission, and Arab leaders will no longer have a guarantee of safety as a byproduct of the US alliance, so they could abandon the US Israel axis and actually stand up for their people. But this situation is far less likely than the former. Either way, the death of Khomeini does not cripple the Islamic Republic. There was already a succession plan because he was 86 and afflicted with cancer, so either way, he was going to die anyway. It is likely that the next leader is going to be even more hardline. Mujtaba Khamenei is known to be supported by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, so we are not going to see any relief of the tensions in the region in the near future. The future remains fraught. Our ethical dilemma is that we should not be legitimizing a brutal and dictatorial regime, but we also shouldn't legitimize the US actions, which are a violation of international law. This means that we are in the middle of two morally fraught situations. Neither side aligns with our moral position. So what we have to do is we have to understand that we have to refute both sides of the spectrum. We can recognize both that Iran has a regime which suppresses dissent and freedoms, but the United States is also increasingly acting with impunity on the world stage, and similarly so with Israel as well. They are both violating the sovereignty of nations. They're both disrupting security and peace, and without them, there would be far more security and stability within the region and across the world. So we have to recognize that we cannot allow this to stand. Otherwise, Trump and others like him around the world will be emboldened to take further similar action. Without Iran, no opposition to Israeli aggression would remain. It is also becoming increasingly clear what Netanyahu's bigger plan was. It has been years in the making. This did not start 1 week ago or 2 months ago when Trump expressed these desires to invade Iran, because there's someone behind Trump. He is just the frontman for some other movement that is actually spearheading this aggression. In old interviews, Netanyahu openly accepted that he was waiting for an excuse to take out Iran's proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas, and 7th October gave him the justification for US support to take out these bulwarks against Israel. So it's become increasingly clear that Israel actually knew about the 7th October attacks. This was not something that they were caught by surprise with, because they've repeatedly expressed that they targeted precision strikes on Iran to take out the supreme leader, despite saying that, oh, our missile missed the base of Iran, so we hit a school. So that makes perfect sense, right? And then also they said that they had access to security cameras in Tehran for the last 10 years. So that means that it's highly unlikely that they were unaware of the Hamas attacks, which means they let it happen. They allowed it to be a false flag operation to justify their aggression and genocide in the region. That is why we have to say that we cannot allow further aggression to continue, because they will be even more emboldened than they already are. Just a few days ago, Israel closed the Al-Aqsa compound and they closed down Friday prayers in the month of Ramadan. You see this pattern repeatedly, where Israel expands its aggression and expands its hostility in this month. So we cannot allow this to happen. We have to stand up against this flagrant violation. Otherwise, international law will continue to remain toothless and weak. And that is because of the corporate capture and the American influence within our global institutions. The next step that Netanyahu took was to whip the Arab states into line. The Abraham Accords attest to that. Then after that, this is the next stage. It was to incapacitate Iran, which is currently in progress, but it seems that Iran is standing firm against it so far. The next target will be Pakistan. He certainly has a hand to play in the downfall of Imran Khan. Just a few years ago, he stated that his primary objectives were to ensure that Iran would not become powerful and that Pakistan would not become powerful, because they were the only two countries in the region that had nuclear capabilities and hostility to the Zionist regime. When the inevitable Israeli ploy is put into action, Pakistan will have no answers, because its leader is another shameless servant of the American empire. If Pakistan is subjugated, there will be no power remaining except for Iran that opposes Israel and United States interests in the region. And this power will rapidly become diminished because of the scale of attack on them and because of the scale of the alliances around them in the region. There's no countries except for the proxy states that actually support the actions of Iran against Israel. Meanwhile, the United States has allies in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Israel. They have so many options at their disposal, bases all around Iran. Iran finds itself in a fraught position today. One thing is clear: this war, this hostility, this aggression is not about nuclear weapons, nor is it about democracy. It is selective morality once again. History is repeating itself before our very eyes. This is autocracy and repression and fascism rising before our very eyes, yet we continue to be encouraged to deny it by the people in power, by the establishment and the existing order that have continued to perpetuate conflict and decline and inequality throughout decades and decades of neoliberalism. Remember what they said with Iraq: weapons of mass destruction. This time, it's nuclear weapons. This time, it's a religious crusade. This time, it's a protection of allies in the region. It is yet another blatant lie. Netanyahu has been falsely claiming that Iran has nuclear weapons since at least 1995. Russia also has nuclear weapons, but they are never refuted and opposed at the same level. This is the hypocrisy, the pure hypocrisy of the American empire and the Western imperial order. Where's the Russian regime change operation? Where is the regime change operation against India, which is increasingly autocratic and authoritarian and repressive? This selective morality infuriates me deeply. There are so many autocratic regimes in the world, including American allies in the Gulf states, countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, who suppress dissent, who are anti-democratic. Yet never will they take action against them because oil flows from that region of the world and America is deeply reliant on those resources. They will never ever take action against Israel, Russia, or other powers. They will only take action against those who refute the aggression of the Zionist regime because the American government is completely captured by corporate interests and the Israel lobby. It is also relevant to consider the other global factors at play here. US aggression emboldens autocrats and expansionists worldwide and legitimizes the actions of leaders like Modi and Putin, who regularly violate international law. This means that as US attention is diverted, we could see global hostility in various regions around the world, and particularly in China. China has never had a more perfect opportunity to take Taiwan by the scruff of the neck. This is the perfect opportunity for them. Whilst US resources are stretched, whilst US attention is diverted to the Middle East to take Taiwan by force. The global ramifications of Trump's actions make this an increasingly dangerous moment. One misstep could lead to unadulterated catastrophe. There's also another interesting dynamic at play here. The United States is supporting separatism in Kurdistan, so this could also undermine the borders of Iraq and Turkey too, and create huge tensions within the NATO alliance. Turkey and Iraq have been consistently refuting the Kurdistan movement for many years, and so has Iran, a rare source of cooperation and common interest within the region. But now that the US is stirring up tensions, Turkey could significantly thwart NATO efforts if ever the situation becomes so escalated, and it could significantly oppose US interests if the situation in the Kurdistan region gets escalated further. Iran has also played an increasingly strategic masterclass. We are seeing the pieces on the chessboard coming together to reveal a clearer picture now. Iran has Shahed drones that it is deploying to Middle Eastern countries and towards Israel. These Shahed drones cost only $20,000, but the aircraft defense missiles that are used to shoot down these drones cost up to $2 million, and their stocks are rapidly declining. Sky News revealed that American missile stocks are rapidly dwindling because Iran has broadened the front so much by attacking various Gulf countries across the region, and these countries have minimal defensive capabilities and are heavily reliant on American support. This undermines the oil market, and hence the support of both American, European, and Gulf public opinion and government opinion in the long term for the Trump regime. If Europe is facing higher oil prices and higher cost of living and inflation, then they're far less likely to support Trump's illegal war. And the same goes for the American population. If they face lower affordability, then they will seek to revolt against the Trump regime's actions. The Arab states are also particularly negatively impacted because their entire reputation of security and stability and as playgrounds of the ultra wealthy has been completely undermined by the actions of the previous few days. Because of the attacks that are coming in fast onto the region, there is less stability for all the expats in the region, for all the migrants who have come there to seek opportunity. And now the reputation that has been so carefully cultivated over so many decades is being severely undermined. Finally, Iran also had a ready succession plan. The IRGC, the power behind the crown in the Islamic Republic, made sure that the successor aligned with their interests. Mujtaba Khamenei's rise means two things: ultra hardline government and a thirst for revenge. This means that the Iranian people lose out from this war. The United States public lose out from this war. Only Israel wins. And this tells us the true state of today's global order and the scale of acquiescence to Israeli expansionism and Zionist interests worldwide. But how can we reshape this global order, this distorted and flawed global order, to prevent another world war? There are only two ways that this can be achieved. There are only two ways that we can restore justice, fairness, and accountability on the global stage to rebalance the global order in favor of the oppressed nations of our world. The first is to destroy the dollar's status as the global reserve currency. We need a neutral global reserve currency to denominate trade. Dollar dominance gives America immense trade leverage and political influence worldwide. Every nation is deeply reliant on US payments infrastructure like SWIFT, but also on US big tech. Independent systems and trade fairness is the first step to destroying the techno-feudalist establishment that's controlling the nations of the world. The second step is to reform global institutions. If the UN was neutral, then the US would face consequences for its illegal actions and for its oppressive support of the Zionist regime's genocide. Even Israel would face accountability if these global bodies were not toothless and weak. We have to abolish veto powers that obstructed this very justice that has been denied for so long. The UN Security Council makes sure that justice is obstructed at every level, whether it's for Russia, whether it's for America. These veto powers make sure that no accountability is ever introduced for those people who have killed millions, for those people who have destroyed the livelihoods of thousands. We have to remove US influence also from the International Monetary Fund, which perpetuates neoliberalism and economic orthodoxy worldwide, and it traps nations deeply into poverty by enforcing austerity forcibly. The other consequences of this crisis are also clear to see. The opportunism of nations like China and India will become clear over the coming days and weeks. They will see this as an opportunity to threaten the regions that they are trying to threaten. For India, this is Kashmir. And as I said for China earlier, Taiwan will become at risk. The UK, they have a difficult hand to play here. I think Starmer was right to introduce defensive actions against Iranian drones to defend British bases and British allies. But obviously, aggressive actions, which David Lammy has not ruled out, should never be introduced because we do not want to repeat the mistakes of the wars of the past. It is also clear that the UK will never directly send troops to the region or get involved significantly because Parliament will never approve such actions. Meanwhile, for the Islamic Republic, it will continue to resist if it survives, but it will be significantly weakened without its global proxies. Disillusioned nations in the global south will buy Chinese products and Chinese oil, Russian products and Russian oil as it continues to shift away from American dominance. And they will continue to play into the hands of global dictators who will feel increasingly emboldened by the scale of hostility and violation of international laws and norms across the world. It is clear that this fragmentation and this disdain and contempt for the global order is the world that Trump has created. And the injustice of our societies and our social structures means that he will evade all accountability. He will be absolved of all responsibility. Part of the reason for this war is to distract from the allegations of misconduct by Trump in the Epstein files. He will continue to escape the consequences of his actions. In this time of turmoil, remember this: those who tell the stories rule society. Do not be silent. Call out the injustices of our world so that we can silence the oppressors. and bring them to justice. Look past the lens that power displays and gain the key to unlocking your freedom.